Welcome to Reflect with Ed Fassio. Get ready to experience one of the world's first 100% digitally generated podcasts, where we take a step back, dive deep, and strive to learn new things. Join us as we unpack thought-provoking ideas, personal reflections, and inspiring stories to help you stay in the know. Reflect is brought to you by the minds at ByteBrain and powered by emerging technologies from Google, HeyGen, OpenAI, and 11 Labs. Thanks for tuning in. Now, relax and prepare to reflect.
Welcome to Reflect, one of the world's first 100% AI-generated podcasts. Today, we are jumping right into a deep dive, looking at something that feels simple on the surface. Commitment. But we're going deeper. We're really dissecting the full cost, the financial, but also the emotional, the personal cost of saying yes. We're talking about the true price of that single word. One author actually called it quite powerfully, the price of yes.
It's such a relevant topic right now. It's funny, our source material actually flies this in AI development. One of the big strategic risks they talk about is accidentally building an AI that's just a perfect yes man. It just agrees to everything, executes every command without ever really calculating the cumulative drain on resources over time.
And wow, that immediately hits home, doesn't it? It's like a perfect mirror for us, for human behavior. We worry about AI lacking that critical calculation, that sort of foresight. But then we turn around and say yes to things, opportunities, requests, you name it, even when we know deep down it's going to stretch us way too thin. We kind of become our own worst yes men, huh?
We absolutely do. So the goal for this deep dive, really drawing from folks like Ed Fassio who've thought hard about this, is to take that AI risk assessment idea and, apply it to ourselves, make it personal policy. And the first insight is actually pretty counterintuitive. It's about hesitation.
Yeah, I've always thought hesitation was like a bad sign, weakness maybe, or just doubt, like you're not sure you can actually pull it off.
That's the common view, totally. But the sources argue pretty much the opposite. True, like deliberate hesitation. It doesn't come from fear of failure. It actually comes from already having a really clear picture, understand exactly what that commitment is going to take out of you. The author's really clear that the aim isn't cynicism about whether it will work out. It's clarity about the real cost involved.
Clarity over cynicism. Okay, I like that. That really reframes it. It makes slowing down feel less like dragging your feet and more like serious risk assessment. All right, so our mission today is to nail down that clarity for you listening in. We're going to try and calculate the real, often hidden cost of saying yes. And then, this is key, figure out how to anchor that decision to something solid, something that doesn't shift. Let's get into those hidden costs first. Okay, but first, we have to acknowledge something important, right? Let's call it the calculation privilege, because for so many people, saying yes isn't really a choice based on optimizing opportunity, it's survival. You say yes to that extra shift or the unreasonable demand because saying no, that's just not an option.
Exactly, and that's the crucial context. We have to keep that reality in mind. But for those of you listening who do have some room to choose where you've built up some capacity, the source material warns that just giving away that yes without thinking, that's the quickest route to having fewer choices down the line. And stopping that cycle starts with properly defining the real price tag.
We usually think in terms of, hours put in, maybe money spent, obvious stuff. But the real cost, the one that bites, it always seems to be hiding somewhere else.
It really does. The most insightful way the material puts it is that the cost isn't just effort or time. It's hours, yes, but also your energy, your mental bandwidth, and this is critical, those quiet parts of yourself that nobody else really sees or values, those quiet parts. They're like the bedrock, the resources that actually sustain you long term.
Wait, hang on. Mental bandwidth and quiet parts. Can you unpack that a bit more? Like if someone asks me to lead a new committee, I can estimate the hours. But how do I measure the cost of those invisible things?
Okay, think of mental bandwidth, like the RAM on your computer. Every single yes, no matter how small it seems, it loads another program onto your system. It needs background processing power. So even if the actual task only takes, say, 2 hours, the fact that you now have to think about it, schedule it, worry about it, remember it, that itself costs you. It costs you freedom from that mental clutter. And the quiet parts, that's the time you spend doing things that genuinely restore you. Unstructured thinking, maybe creative stuff just for fun, or simply being present without a goal. Those are always the first things to go when you give away a cheap yes.
Okay, wow. That puts that real-world story from the material in a much harsher light. The one where the author, Ed Fassio, got pulled into that absolute dumpster fire of a project.
Right. You can just picture it. Middle of the night, phone rings, huge project, critical failure. Customers are furious, reporters are sniffing around, and the leadership who should have been on top of it, they're panicking. And someone says, we need this fixed. Now, get on the phone.
And because he was capable, and probably because he cared about doing good work, he stepped up. Got the team together, they pulled an all-nighter, fixed a mess someone else made, and basically absorbed all the stress and pressure of a failure that wasn't even theirs to begin with. And yeah, they solved the immediate problem.
Success, right. On paper, but the consequences. Pretty stark when you look closely. The author mentioned getting the great job, the congratulations, the sighs of relief from the bosses.
Yeah.
But crucially, no bonus, no raise, and maybe worst of all, no real increase in respect, just a new expectation. The expectation was set. Next time there's a crisis, Ed's the guy. He'll do it again. Same deal.
So the price he paid was actual sleep, time with family, the mental toll of managing chaos. And the return was a pat on the back and the privilege of doing it again.
Exactly that. And this is the absolute core takeaway here. The price of yes isn't just the effort you put in. Effort is one thing. The real price is what that effort replaces, the true opportunity cost. What irreplaceable part of your life, your health, your relationships, your quiet time did you trade away for something that ultimately just plugged a hole in someone else's boat?
Yeah, it's like the difference between just spending money and actually losing irreplaceable capital.
Yeah.
You gave something finite and precious and got back an expectation. Ouch. Okay, so once you start calculating that hidden cost, the next logical step is setting up some kind of filter, right? The author actually built a negotiation framework before saying yes to anything that dipped into those quiet parts. This gets into the business of boundaries. It's like a 3-point check.
This is where it shifts from just tracking costs to making strategic investments of your energy. Okay, rule number 1. Is the trade actually fair? And this needs brutal honesty. Does the reward, whatever it is, genuinely make up for what you're losing?
Rule 2. Is the respect mutual? This means really looking at why they're asking you. Is it because you have unique skills they value? Or is it just because they know you're the one who always caves and says yes? Big difference.
Huge difference. And number 3, is the return, whether that's actual money or growth, new skills, maybe even just clear, acknowledged relief from something else, is it truly equal to the weight this yes is going to put on your life? Mm-hmm. If you can't confidently say yes to all 3 of those, the source material is pretty blunt. The answer needs to be a firm, guilt-free hesitation. Or maybe just a no.
Let's make that concrete for someone listening. Say you get asked to chair some internal committee, totally outside your actual job description. And the person asking says something like, look, you're just so good at making things work, and honestly, nobody else really has the bandwidth.
Oh, that's a classic test case. Okay, let's run it through the checks. 1, fairness. Extra work. 0 alignment with your role. The reward. Maybe some fuzzy visibility. Sounds like a pretty bad trade to me. 2, respect. Okay, they acknowledge you're reliable. That's good. But the subtext is often, your current workload must be less critical than my problem. That's not really mutual respect. 3, return versus wait. The wait is clear, late nights, weekend emails, added stress. The return. Maybe a metaphorical gold star you can't spend?
You just outlined why that's almost certainly a no, or at least a not unless things change significantly.
Yeah.
It's treating your time and energy like the valuable assets they are, not like some infinite public utility.
Exactly. But then the source material does this interesting pivot. It acknowledges, look, not everything that's valuable fits on a spreadsheet. Sometimes the return isn't career points or money. Sometimes it's just joy.
And when we talk about joy as compensation, we're not talking about vegging out watching Netflix, right? This is something different. It's more like deep restorative engagement.
Precisely. Yeah. The author gives this really personal, vivid example. Playing guitar late at night. No audience, no plan to use it for anything, no metric he was trying to hit. He was consciously trading sleep, yes, but doing it for the pure act of creation itself, for the sheer joy of it.
So he wasn't practicing for a gig or trying to get better in a measurable way. He was doing it because it gave something back to him, something that the constant pressure of success and achievement had been quietly draining away. It was trading functional time for, spiritual fuel.
That's a great way to put it.
Right.
And that leads to this really critical synthesis in the material. There are basically 2 valid kinds of yes. One is strategic. It's negotiated. You weigh the costs and benefits fairly. That's the business side of things. Money, growth, that kind of return. The other yes is one you just surrender to. It's for wonder, for restoration, for that non-productive, pure joy, like playing the guitar just because. Both are absolutely vital for staying whole long-term. The big danger is mixing them up, trying to justify joy with productivity, or giving away strategic yeses too cheaply.
Okay, so calculating the cost, negotiating the return, that handles the what and how. But that brings us to the really foundational piece, the ultimate non-negotiable. The source material highlights this incredible question, apparently used in the psychological screening for Navy SEAL candidates.
Yeah, it's a fascinating probe because it just cuts through everything else. Forget your job title, forget what you've accomplished, forget how useful you might seem in that moment. They just look the candidate in the eye and ask, what do you stand for?
It sounds so simple, just 4 words. But why is that question so disarming, so difficult for most people?
Because it asks for something most of us never actually take the time to define explicitly. We tend to define ourselves by our roles, by what we do. I'm a project manager, I'm a parent, I'm a writer. We rarely define ourselves by a set of core, unshakable principles. What do I stand for, regardless of the situation? And if you haven't consciously articulated that, if you haven't planted that flag, then essentially your anchor isn't fixed. It can be dragged around.
And that's the core danger the author really hammers home. If you don't know, truly know and articulate what you stand for, then every yes becomes a negotiable, every single one, which means your time, your peace of mind, your relationships, your health, even eventually your integrity, it can all get chipped away piece by piece because you haven't drawn that absolute line in the sand for yourself.
Exactly. You end up in this cycle of chasing usefulness instead of seeking alignment.
Yeah.
You say yes to things that drain you because they seem important or urgent in the moment.
Yeah.
And you say no to the things that would actually restore you because they feel unproductive or self-indulgent. You effectively become really, really efficient at undermining your own foundation.
So the real work, the deepest work here, isn't just about budgeting your time better, although that's useful for sure. It's about anchoring those budget decisions, those yes or no choices, to something fundamental, something that won't budge when the pressure comes on.
And that anchor, the sources argue, is character, your defined principles, your values. It's that spot where you plant your feet and say, nope, this far and no further, no matter how tempting the offer is or how dire the emergency seems. Look, effort runs out. Opportunities seem endless sometimes. Joy is precious but can be fragile. But that foundation of character, that has to be the bedrock. That comes first.
Because if your yes comes from that anchored place, from your core values, then it's a deliberate act of integrity. It's an honor even, not just an obligation you stumbled into or a surrender to someone else's urgency.
It completely changes the dynamic. You stop being just reactive, pushed around by external demands, and you start being proactive, making choices based on your own internal compass. It's rigor, but it's liberating. #tag, #outro. So as we wrap up, we want to leave you with those ultimate questions from the source material. Questions maybe to just carry with you this week into your next meeting, the next time an opportunity lands in your lap, when the offer looks good, when the pressure's on and the cost is definitely real, when maybe no one's watching and there's no guaranteed reward. What do you stand for? In the follow-up, will your next yes actually honor that, or will it, maybe quietly, betray it?
Just remember, not every single opportunity out there actually deserves your exhaustion. It really doesn't. And not every moment of your life has to justify its existence by generating profit or productivity. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say no to all the noise. And sometimes the most necessary thing is saying a full-throated yes to something that brings you pure, unadulterated joy. Thanks for listening to the Reflect Podcast, where we're telling the future. Are you in it? Visit reflectpodcast.com and share your story.
In the cyber ocean of online voices and recycled content, something different has arrived. Reflect isn't just another podcast, it's the future of storytelling, powered entirely by AI. From curating data to assembling thought-provoking ideas, we've redefined how journeys are told. Reflect is a podcast that thinks, learns, and evolves with each episode. Every tale, every insight, crafted by the most advanced AI technologies. A podcast that disrupts the industry, breaking free from traditional formats, taking you on an entirely new experience. So tune in now and reflect. We're telling the future.